Hey there, it's Amelia. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I laid out my children's book using Word to prepare the file for uploading on KDP for a paperback version. This includes using full-page illustration JPEG files, all of which were illustrated and prepared by my illustrator. I also use the bleed option on KDP, so if your illustrations encompass the whole page, you'll want to turn that feature on. I also explain the measurements I use in Word and proper alignment and placement of my images to get my file approved for KDP. The trim size I use for my children's paperback picture books is 8.5 by 8.5 inches. Let's get started. First, let's review what you will need to set up your children's picture book to follow the steps in this video. Please note that this is just one way you can set up your book for KDP. There are other methods, but this is the method I have used for all my children's books. And I also used Word to format all my nonfiction business books. If you're working on a fiction or nonfiction book, I'll cover that in a separate video. You will need all the JPEG illustrations for the interior of your book in a high-resolution format. Here are all my illustrations. My JPEG files are 2,550 or 2550 by 2550 pixels, square image, and that size was set up by my illustrator. In some cases, I have more than one version of my full-page illustration, and that's due to additional edits applied over time. JPEG worked fine for me versus other formats like PNG. PNG files are a larger file size, and you want to be careful of not using files which are huge file sizes because this will affect and increase the final size of your PDF file, which you will upload on KDP. And a larger file size can affect the cost of printing and your overall royalties. This also depends on your pricing. That is all covered in a separate video where I will show the whole uploading process and so forth. I'm using Microsoft Word 365, but this setup should be the same as long as you're using one of the newer versions of Word. Menus and commands in older versions, like Word 2007, for example, may look a little different. So here's the completed document. And I also have a blank document open because I'm going to show you step by step how I created this. This is more or less my source file. And for uploading on KDP, once I finish setting this file up, I save the file to PDF for the final version. So before we get started in Microsoft Word, I thought it might be helpful for you to see the physical paperback book. So here it is, and I want to point out a few things about the front and back matter in a moment. And I also wanted to mention that I recently updated my cover. That's something you can do at some point. I wanted to make it more fun and add some enhancements to the images, and I also added free recipes inside. I also have the hardcover as well. I didn't do that in KDP. Can't do that yet with children's books, but they do have the hardcover option available, but it's a minimum of I think like 75 pages. So again, I do want to mention a couple things about the physical book. So inside, I like to have page 1 as the inside title page. So I have the title and my name as author and then the illustrator, and you can certainly make this just a text, but I like to have a cropped image of the front cover, just to add a little bit on that page. And then also keep in mind, and I'll mention this again when we're in Microsoft Word, that page 1 or odd number pages are going to appear on the right, whereas even numbered pages, so if I flip over, page 2 is going to be on the left. So I have the copyright page is page 2, and then page 3, again, odd pages on the right. I have a dedication page that's optional. You can also put something like, this book belongs to message on that page. And then I have the next page, page 4, as a blank page because I wanted my first page illustration to start on the right, and this is page 5. And then on page 6 and 7, on the next 2 pages, I have my first 2 facing page illustrations. So if you do have some illustrations that you need to match up, you just want to kind of keep in mind you have like a tiny bit of cushion because of the binding. So I have, all the full page illustrations, and then in the back I have some full page text only pages, say, because I have a recipe for my apple cake, and then I have a thank you page. I like to add a thank you page and also politely ask for a review. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And then if you have other books in your series, either now or later, you can always add a page later. It's good to mention that in the back of your book. I have 2 other books in this series, so I have a thumbnail and a description. And then finally, on the back page, I have a full page illustration here with no text to symbolize the ends of the book. So let's go ahead and jump into Microsoft Word, and I'll show you how I laid out the file. So I used KDP for the paperback format, which is this file that you see here. I also created ebook versions using Kindle Create, and I'll cover that in a separate video. Although KDP does offer hardcover format as of 2022, it cannot be used at this time for children's books because the minimum page count for hardcover is 75. That hopefully will change in the near future. Most picture books are anywhere from 25 to say 32 or more pages. The minimum page count is 24 for a paperback on KDP, and it's best if the total page count is divisible by 8. One more note about hardcover. I do have the hardcover version as I showed you a little while ago, and I created that on Ingram Spark, and I may have a separate video on how I set that up, but for today's video I'm focusing on the paperback version on KDP. So I have show hide turned on, which is this little symbol here, and that will allow me to show you the symbols and markings for page breaks and so forth. So I'll zoom in a bit here and show you a couple of the pages that have mostly text on them and how I set those up. So for all my pages, I set up the margins as 0. So in Layout, Margins, Custom Margins, as you can see, I have the top, bottom, left, and right as 0. And when you set that up, you want to make sure the Apply to Whole Document is selected. Now for the page size in Microsoft Word, I contacted KDP to confirm the proper size based on my trim size. If you need help contacting KDP, I created a separate video on how easy it is to contact KDP for help. So for the page size in Layout, select Size, More Paper Sizes, and then in the Paper tab for Paper Size, Custom Size, I have my width set up as 8.63 and the height set up as 8.75. Please note if your trim size is different than mine, you will need to contact KDP to confirm the page size in Word. I'm going to switch over to a blank document and set up the margins and the page size. Okay, so this is just a blank document using File, New in Word. And first thing I'm going to do is select Layout, Margins, Custom Margins, and then I'm going to put in 0 for the top, bottom, left, and right. And again, you just want to make sure that Apply to Whole Document is selected and click OK. You will get a warning that some margins are outside the printable area of the page. That's okay. Just click Ignore. And I'll explain, you'll see when I insert the full page illustrations, why that's necessary. Okay, so next, click in the Layout tab, Size, More Paper Sizes, and in the Paper tab, for the paper size, I'm going to change the width to 8.63, and the height I'm changing to 8.75. And then again, just make sure it says Apply to Whole Document and click OK. and I'm clicking ignore. So on pages with text, I have about 4 pages in the beginning with mostly text. I used the indent to move text over, or I use center alignment. So I'm going to flip it back over so we can see the completed and make it the same. Okay, so you can see here that I have 4 hard returns, 3 are indented, and then I have the book title and my name in a larger font centered. And for the most part, on the pages with text, I used a Calibri font, and in this case, I used 28 point size, and we'll just kind of keep that in mind as we go along. And this is separate than the text that's overlaid on my illustrations. You'll see soon the full page illustrations. My illustrator overlaid the text directly on the illustration, so that's contained in the JPEG file. Okay, so 4 hard returns, and then I'm just going to select this just to make it a little easier, and I'll paste it in. So I'm going to flip over. Okay, so we got 4 hard returns. It actually doesn't really matter if I indent that, and I'm just going to, at this point, click Home, Center, and I'm going to paste, and I'll just change that to my point size of 28. And I may have bolded that. I think I did, so let me go ahead and bold that. And then after a blank line, I inserted a cropped image of my front cover. So to insert this image, I'm selecting Insert Pictures from this device. And these are all my illustrations, and the cropped image is here, and it's a pink because it's a transparent background around the circle, and click Insert. In this case, only because I'm kind of comparing notes, if I double click on this image, I could see that I can see the size, so it's a 2.87, almost square. So I'm going to just make that the same. I usually hit Tab and then it adjusts, and sometimes there's like a little tiny bit of a difference, but it won't really matter in this case. Okay, and then I have my illustrator. I'm not going to put all the text in, but you can get the idea here. Okay, so say I wanted to then jump to page 2. I'm going to insert a hard page break with Control Enter to jump to the next page. And then I have my copyright information here. Again, you want to just have this prepared so that you can paste it in. In this case, I went with a 1-inch indentation. So I'm going to click the indent here twice, and that's 1 inch. And then I had 3 hard returns, or 3 blank lines. Okay, and again, I'll just adjust the text here to 16 and paste in the information. Okay, so a little bit about the right margin. Again, since I have 0 for the margins, we're just going to use a indentation on the right side. Let me just take that bold off. And you could see here that I have an indentation here at this position. So what I'm going to do is anytime you want to add an indent on the right, you want to select the text for that indent and then just position on the right indent symbol on the ruler and then move that in. That's fine. Okay. And then so on and so forth. So I have my dedication page and then a blank page, and I'll just kind of simulate that. Again, Control Enter, and I would have my dedication page here. Okay, and then I have one more blank, and then one more blank page here for page break. Okay, so right now I'm sitting at page 5. So let's just confirm that this is my first full page illustration on page 5. So on page 5, because I had indented on that other page, I just want to, from this point on, I want to remove that until I need it for the back matter. So I'm going to move that over all the way to the left, as well as the right indentation. Okay, so at this point, I want to insert my first full page illustration. I click Insert Pictures, from this device, and this is my latest one, and click insert. Okay, so let me just adjust the zoom so you could see the whole page. Okay, so what we're going to do is single click so we can get our little handles. And when you outstretch it, you want to outstretch it so that the illustration encompasses the whole page, that there's absolutely no white, and it's best, and I confirmed this with KDP, if the illustration goes a little bit beyond, just to be 100% sure, right? So you want to make sure that there's no white, and sometimes I just go a little bit. And, you know, if you lose the handle, I like to use the Control Z sometimes if I want to go back, because the handles sometimes will disappear. Okay, so just to be sure, let's flip back. And in my completed file, I want to double click on this image and confirm. Now this is 8.82 by 8.82. And again, it's larger than the page size that I had set up earlier, but that's perfectly fine. Anybody out there that has, you know, like anything on the very edge, you want it. That's why you want to make sure, hopefully I caught you before you finalize your illustrations, that you tell your illustrator to allow like a quarter, maybe half an inch, but at least a quarter inch on the outside, and don't put anything important on the very, very edges, because you run the risk that it might be cut off. Not so much that, you know, when you outstretch it, but when they actually print and cut the pages. Okay, so let's do a couple more pages. Oh, I forgot to mention that I like to have a few spare blank pages beyond this page. So let me just grab the handle again and just show you. So you can see here, there's a symbol for the page break. So I'm just going to Control Enter a few times just to have a bunch of extra pages. It just makes life easier. Okay, so I said that was 8.82. So I'm going to double click so I can see the picture format tab, and I want to outstretch that to, okay, I can just adjust it here to 8.82. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert a few more full page illustrations. So I'm going to click Insert, Pictures, this device, and I want page 2, so I'm going to click here, click Insert. Okay, and again, just because I'm double checking here, this one's 8.73 and that one's 8.8. So this one, now I could outstretch it, or I can just go up here and just type in the measurement. And that might be easier for you. That if you don't want to bother outstretching with the handles, you can just double click on the image, go to the picture format tab, and then just type in a consistent measurement. And again, I would go with 8.8 if you're just not sure, just because that will encompass beyond the 8.75 height. Okay, and then the next page here, insert pictures from this device, and this is page 3. I made some edits here, and let me just pick this one here, insert. And one more thing, when you if you decide to outstretch using the handles, always use the handles in the corner, preferably the bottom right handle. Never use the handles on the side. If you do, the aspect ratio will be off, and you definitely don't want that because then your picture will be blurred or skewed. So again, you can use the handle or just double click, and in the size section here, I'm going to make this 8.8, press tab, and it will automatically fill in the width for you. If you have any problem at all with the aspect ratio not being retained, click on the more arrow here and make sure lock aspect ratio is checked. Very important. Okay, so you get the, I think, the idea of all the pages that I've inserted, and then I'm just going to go to the bottom now. Okay, so after the last full page illustration, I have several pages with text. So again, you want to prepare the text beforehand so that it's easy to paste in, or, type in the information and then you can format it as you go. I have my cake recipe and then my thank you page, and then I have my other page with my 2 other books in my series. So I set that up the same way as I showed you in the front matter with the text. So if you have a blog or a certain email you want to include, you can put that URL in, and it's easy to insert a link in Microsoft Word. You want to just, and this is more or less for the ebook, right? Not the print, but maybe for the ebook. So once you select your text, you can right click or click insert link. It's easy enough to right click and then insert hyperlink there. Okay, and then this particular page has one more full page illustration added. And this particular book is 30 pages. Now, I did read, and I may have mentioned it earlier, that KDP prefers that you have the page count divisible by 4. They may have exceptions. This book is 30. I also have another book that's 31. I may have a blank extra page in the back. And then, keep it roughly 32 or divisible by 8 seems to be the requirement. So once you finish all the pages of your book, you want to make sure that you double check everything on every page and then save it as a PDF file. And it's easy enough to save as a PDF. You just want to click File, Save As, Browse, and then in the destination folder, in the Save As type, select PDF, click Save. That'll just take a moment. And then once it's saved, you want to double check every page in your PDF. So my PDF file opened in Adobe Reader, and there's a very helpful way that you can display the pages of your file and see them how they're going to look in your printed book. So right now it's set up for 1-page view. So if I page down, this is helpful, but it's more helpful if I could see pages side by side for how it's going to look as a book. So if you go up to View, Page Display, it's set for single page view. You want to change that to 2-page view, and then you want to go back in View, Page Display, and select Show Cover Page in 2-page view. When I page down, this is exactly how it's going to look as a book. So if you remember at the beginning of the video, I opened my physical book. So somebody opens the book, they see this as the first page on the right side. They turn the page, and then this is page 2, and this is page 3. This is exactly what they're going to see. Page down. And in my case, I have a blank page as page 4, and I start my full page illustration on page 5. And then we'll give one more look. If I page down, this is the first set of pages, the facing pages. Now, in my case, I don't have a lot of pages that I have to match up, like with a mountain or a view in the background, but you might. So this is really helpful to see if things match up on the inside. And that's it. That's everything that I've done to prepare my file for the paperback version on KDP. Now, to upload on KDP is a whole separate process, which I'll cover in another video. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any specific questions or feedback, please leave me a comment. If you'd like to see another part of the process for KDP, please let me know. To learn more about Kindle Direct Publishing or KDP, visit my blog for information on my step-by-step KDP training course on ameliaswritingcorner.com/courses. And you'll see information on that page for course availability for this course and other courses. Remember to smash the like button if you found this video helpful, and click the subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.